Hi, welcome back to the channel, and here we are, Vlogmas, 1st of December already, and not long till silly season, isn't it? I've thought long and hard about doing Vlogmas at all because I don't actually celebrate Christmas, and I thought, is it fair for me to do what's typically the run-up to Christmas in the way that other YouTubers do it when it's not running up to anything for me. December is just December. But on the other hand, in all the conversations that I had with myself, I thought, well, I have got a lot of things that I think about Christmas and could talk to you about. So I thought, well, yes, I'll do it anyway. It's a good discipline when you're trying to do a vlog to sit down and have a discipline to record something. So sorry, I'm getting a little bit, I'm not defensive, I'm just chilly. I'm just tucking my hands under my sleeves there so that I can stay a bit warm. I've got a fire on near my feet to keep my feet a bit warmer. And I thought I'd start off with a typical Christmas carol with Ghosts of Christmas Past. And I'm saying Ghosts of Christmas Past because they're not really my memories that I'm starting with. As a child, I used to, my mother was always telling us stories of her family and her childhood and her upbringing, whereas my dad didn't. My dad was never really spoke about anything prior to our little family, mum, dad, my sister and myself. He wasn't one for talking about past memories, but my mum was. So I have this wealth of Christmas memories that aren't my memories. And mum would have been, well, mum and dad would have been 100 years old this year. Mum would have been 100 in March and dad September. So it struck me how much, or it strikes me how much Christmas has actually changed over even, I was going to say the course of my lifetime, but, going back a generation from me, how things have evolved and changed so very, very much. So my mum used to talk about Christmas as a very, very joyous family occasion. It was sort of parties, and it would start off, unlike nowadays when Christmas seems to start so very early, halfway through, as soon as Halloween's over, you're almost hard tracked for Christmas. But in those days, although they would decorate the houses, certainly in my mum's family, the decorations wouldn't go up until Christmas Eve. It was actually Christmas evening. That was the traditional day to put up your decorations. And so Christmas evening, my granddad and my mum and her two sisters, Nellie and Winnie, would all get ready to help Grandad put the decorations up. And I don't know how they were being put up. All I know is there was a hammer involved. So I don't know whether it was drawing pins or nails or whatever it was, there was a hammer involved. And every single year, apparently, Grandad would hit his thumb with a hammer and then go to the pub and leave the rest of the decorations for the girls to put up. It sounds to me as if it was a very orchestrated event, that this was tradition, this is what Grandad would do. And I mean, he wasn't a big drinker, he wasn't somebody who would spend his life in a pub. My granddad was actually the manager of the local dairy. So not middle class, but kind of upper working class. But certainly not a big drinker. But in those days, the pub was a social it was a public house. It's where people would go and socialise. So the pre-Christmas accident would happen, and off Grandad would go to the pub, and then Mum and her two sisters, and presumably my grandmother as well, would, and even my uncle, would all decorate the house with much simpler decorations than they are nowadays, and presumably a lot cheaper. And the house would all be decorated. And then Christmas Day, all the wider family would come to my nan and granddad's. I was going to say my mum's house. It was my nan and granddad's house. It actually wasn't a house. It was a flat above the dairy. You know, downstairs they had the stable, because we're going back so far now. Downstairs with the stables for the horses, and then all the milk would be brought from the farms up to the dairy, but they would go out on horse-drawn wagons for their daily delivery. And I'm not sure when bottled milk came in. So I'm not sure in those days if it would go out in milk bottles, or because they can't be, because Mum used to talk about the milk churns. So I know at one point it used to be that it would be taken out by the milkman in the churns, and then the housewives would have their jug and have it filled up. So I don't know. It's not my memory, so I can only go on what I kind of remember being told and pieced together with history, and pieced together with what I've learned from history and from what Mum told me. But the wider family would come and they would have this magnificent meal. I don't even know if it was turkey. I'm not sure at what point in history England started using turkey rather than goose or one of the other birds or something else, but it was a big celebration meal, and it was followed, the Christmas dinner was followed by a big party. It was a big family party with all the relatives there, and of course in those days working class families would have a piano, and so there would be somebody playing the piano, so it would be live music, live singing. You would everybody would be expected to perform a party piece, as it were, so you'd all be entertaining each other. Of course it was years before the TV. Yeah, I'm trying to think, because my mum was born in 1923. I don't know if she had a TV at all in her childhood. I've got some memory of her saying that there was one for the King's coronation, and that would be not King Charles now, but his grandfather, and how it was a little 9-inch TV, you know, a huge great big piece of furniture, but a tiny little 9-inch TV. But there were games, there were big party games, and one of the games, some of them sounded a little bit cruel and a little bit gruesome, but one of the games was involved several adults and 2 planks of wood, and then you would hold, 2 adults would hold one of the planks of wood low down, and one of the children would sit on it, kind of legs each side. And then I can't remember what the name of the game was, but at some point the plank of wood that you're sat on is lifted, and you don't know, because you're blindfolded, you don't know that somebody else has got another piece of wood just there, so you've only gone up that height and you've hit the wood, but of course you think you're on the ceiling, and so much screaming and and fear at that point. Like I say, I don't know what the point of that game was, but I just remember thinking it sounded fun. There was another game that had to do with my grandmother having a stuffed glove, and she would be the queen, and when you went to shake the queen's hand, it would come off. And some strange games, but it's so sad that, you know, I mean, I'm in my mid-60s, so to try and remember what my mum told me of her memories when I was, you know, 60 odd years ago, it's a shame so much of that history is now gone forever. You know, my mum was the youngest of 4 children, and she passed away 13 years ago. Her sister Nellie was, her sister Winnie was a few years before that. Nellie died when I was 11. Arthur, the oldest, died as a Japanese prisoner of war way before I was born. My grandmother had died before I was born. I knew my granddad. I remember my granddad actually coming down and staying with us for Christmas one year, so I knew granddad. Because I'm just trying to think of what... Oh, the other thing, just trying to remember things to include it in this. But one of them was the entertainment, the playing of the piano. And in those days, boxes of chocolates weren't common, and they were very, very expensive. And somebody had bought a box of chocolates for one of my aunties, and they had been left on top of the piano with just left on top of the piano. And then one of the relatives was playing a song on the piano, and every time it got to the chorus, she would take one of the chocolates, and lasted this song out until she'd nearly eaten the whole box of chocolates. So just thinking that, isn't it funny how the memory of somebody doing something has survived? You know, if Mum was 10 when that happened, that memory has now survived 90 years. So be careful of what you do, because you don't know how long that memory is going to last for. And then Boxing Day, I don't think you have Boxing Day in America. If you do, forgive me. But Boxing Day, the day after Christmas Day, was always go to watch football live. And I can't remember the whole story, but there was some story about Mum had gone with my granddad to watch the football. It had been very, very cold. For some reason, Granddad either went in his slippers, but he didn't have his proper shoes on or something. But then he had to come home on the bus not fully dressed, which for my granddad, like I say, he was the manager of a dairy. He wasn't middle class or upper class, but he did have a position within society. So it was quite scandalous that he would have come home not fully attired. And I really can't remember what the whole story was. And of course, Mum's gone now, so I can't ask her. But please let this be a lesson to you. Talk to your family, talk to your parents, talk to your elderly relatives, and get your camera out and record their memories, because soon they'll be gone. And then you can't go back and ask them. And it's such a shame that you lose these family stories. But also, if it is recorded in first person, then they don't change and evolve as much as time goes on and become modern day family legends, as it were. But yeah, so anyway, my mum had loved Christmas, and it was a wonderful time for her, and she really enjoyed it. And then when she met my dad, which I'm not sure when they met, they were both in the RAF during the war. When they came home, Dad had been in Burma for the war. Mum was, they were both aircraft engineers, so they did the same job and they were the same rank. But Mum, they didn't send the female engineers abroad. Dad went over to Burma. Mum did the same job in this country. And after the war, when Dad had come home and they'd been demobbed, etc., they both decided to go on holiday, and both of them ended up in Butlins in Ireland, where they first met. They didn't. Well, no, actually, they didn't meet at Butlins. It was, I think, in those days there was like everybody arrived and left on the same day, so they would both be going home at the same time. Mum had gone with her friend, Dad had gone with his friend, and they were at the station waiting for the train to get the ferry home. And they had started talking to each other whilst waiting for the train, and it had started to rain. And my dad had said something about not having a hat. And Mum had bought a scarf, which I can't show you. I do have the scarf, but I will show you one day. But Mum had pulled out the scarf and said, "Is this any good?" And it was a beautiful blue scarf with ducks on it. And my dad had, in those days, you would fold it into a triangle and tie it up under your chin. Apparently my dad had put it on. And then Mum had made some sort of comment about not liking bald-headed men, and Dad had said, well, you better marry me quick because my hair's starting to fall out. And that's then they found out that they both lived reasonably close to each other in London, and they started seeing each other, fell in love, got married. Here I am, you know, happy ever after, all this sort of thing. But Mum and Dad had got married, and the first year that Mum went to my dad's family for Christmas, she had bought a present for my dad's cousin. My dad had an older brother. No, he was the eldest, so there was my dad, Uncle Charlie, and then Auntie Madge was the youngest. But he had had a very, very close relationship with his cousin Dorothy, to such an extent that when Dorothy had a baby, she allowed Dad to choose her name, and Dad chose Doreen, which always upset me because I never liked my name, and I thought, well, if Doreen hadn't have got that name, then my sister would have been Doreen and I would have ended up being Christine. And I always felt that I was at the bottom of the list. I think Mum chose my name though, but I don't know why. It was not one that... But I think most people don't... A lot of people don't like their names. Sorry, I'm rabbiting on. But Mum and Dad went to his Mum and Dad's for Christmas, and Mum had taken a present for cousin Dorothy. And she handed this beautifully gift-wrapped present to Dorothy, who then said, oh, I've left yours in the other room. Ran out to the other room and came back, and she had taken the paper off the one that Mum had wrapped her, and then wrapped the gift she was giving to Mum in the paper that had come off her present. Because my dad's family weren't at that stage wrapping presents. It wasn't something that they did. And so that was something that my mum kind of introduced to their Christmases. But prior to that, although they gave gifts, they weren't wrapped up. Or certainly not in dedicated wrapping paper. I don't know if before that they'd use newspaper or brown paper or just not bothered. But that would have been in the 1940s, so I don't know. And again, Mum and Dad are gone. It's too late to ask them now. But that's my Ghosts of Christmas Past memories. And then on future Vlogmases, I can talk about my memories of Christmas and things that I remember from when I was a child and later on growing up, right up to the point where I gave up Christmas and stopped doing it and beyond, and things that are happening kind of more recently and now. So if you're at all interested in why I don't do Christmas, you know, how come it was something that I loved so much and now avoid at all costs. If you're interested, stick with me over Vlogmas. Okay, take care. Lots of love. Bye.